Alright, so today I want to show you some of the snakes that I've decided to sell. I've actually gone through some of my racks and decided to kind of thin things out a little bit instead of expanding. And it's always kind of a struggle. You produce more snakes and then, you need to find room for those snakes and you have to sell other snakes. It's always a challenge without actually expanding and getting too big. And I'm pretty much at the point where I'm pretty comfortable with the number of snakes that I have, and I want to hold some stuff back every year and keep improving my collection and kind of changing the direction as far as which way I want to go. And in this video I kind of want to show you some of the stuff that I'm going to free up. I have some pretty awesome stuff. Some of it is adults, some males and some females, and I kind of wanted to go through. I decided to sell 7 snakes, so I'll actually have 7 snakes that I'm showing you today, and I'm not exactly sure on the prices. I'll actually post them over on Morphmarket. By the time you see this video they'll be on Morphmarket and I'll figure out the prices, but I'll have to do a little bit of market research to figure out the pricing on those snakes. So I'm going to jump in and I want to show you some of these snakes that I've decided to sell. Alright, so here is the first snake that I've decided to sell. This is actually a spider pied white wedding. We actually call it a white wedding because normally on the spider pieds, the spider gene normally pushes all the color to the head. Most spider pieds actually have just a little bit of color on the head, and every now and then you get one with no color at all on the head. This is a female. It's from 2016. It's getting to the point where you could probably almost breed this snake. I've had it pretty much since it was a hatchling. Never have actually bred this snake. It's been kind of picky. I would say it's normally does pretty well on mice, on like a fresh killed or a frozen thawed mice. So every now and then it'll eat a rat, but it's been a pretty picky eater. And kind of the reason I'm getting away from it, believe it or not, I'm actually getting away from pieds, and I want to go more towards the clowns and the desert ghosts. I know it's kind of a hard decision. It's like, what do you keep and what do you get rid of? And this one actually has the spider gene in it too. The spider kind of has, it's known for a neurological issue. And this one, you can see it has a little bit of kind of a corkscrew in the head. I'd say it's just a little bit wobbly on the head. It'd make a really good pet, and as a matter of fact, they say if you're actually breeding spiders, if you actually took one with a head wobble and you bred it, they say normally it's not really line bred. So you can actually take a snake that has a wobble and you breed it, and you pretty much have the same odds of getting wobbles in your offspring as a non-wobbler. It's kind of a random occurrence with a head wobble. A lot of people are kind of against spiders. Some people are against breeding spiders with a head wobble because they're under the assumption that it's actually genetic, but I'd say in most cases from what I've seen it's actually not genetic. And this one's kind of interesting too. It seems like on this particular combo it has eyes that are a little bit bigger than normal ball python eyes. The eyes are just a little bit bug-eyed on this one. Really awesome looking snake, and I just have to free up some room, and I need to figure out what I'm going to get rid of to actually move some other stuff in here. I have some tubs that are just, I just don't have enough tubs, and I don't really want to buy a rack and expand, and that is why I'm letting this girl go. So take a look at this girl. This is a lesser pied, so it has the lesser gene and the pied gene in the mix. And the interesting thing about this one is it actually has eyes that are a little bit smaller than ball python eyes. It's kind of funny. The last one had bigger eyes and this one has smaller eyes. And this one, I think this one actually might have some spider in it as well, because there's just a little bit of kind of a corkscrew on the head on this one. I bought it as a lesser pied, and I don't believe that the kind of the head wobble on this one is from either the lesser or the pied or the combination. I can almost guarantee that this one has some spider in it as well. And this girl, she is big enough to where you could actually breed this girl, and she's probably to the point where you could actually get to the, probably, I'd say you could probably breed this one this year. But you could definitely see she definitely has a little bit of head wobble. If you pick her up, if you put her down on the flat ground, she is perfectly fine. Doesn't really look like a head wobble until you actually kind of pick her up and then kind of dangle her head. Then you can kind of see that corkscrewing of the head. Really awesome snake, really big. She's really super long. Really awesome snake, but you know, if this one has spider, I kind of want to limit the number of spiders that I'm breeding. I'm actually breeding my spider desert ghost visual, and that's pretty much what I want to stay with, just one spider female, produce a limited amount of spiders versus, you know, when I first got into it, I had all these spider combos and some of them like this one that I think is the spider is in there, and I kind of want to reduce the amount of spiders. This is a really awesome snake, really big too. She's probably, I'd say you could probably breed her this upcoming year. She's probably big enough. I haven't actually weighed these girls. I'll weigh them definitely before I put them over on Morphmarket. So here is another really big snake. This is actually a spider-pied male. I actually bred this one this year, and this one actually has a little bit of stargazing. You can definitely tell in the head. It's not really like a corkscrew. It's more of just, you know, he's kind of holds his head at a weird angle sometimes. He's kind of funny. And this one I actually bred to another one, produced some spiders that were het-pied, and I didn't really have any problems with the head wobble on the offspring. I think one of them had just a really slight wobble, but you know, again with this one, I'm just kind of getting away from the spider gene and the pie gene. This is kind of what this is kind of, you know, the pie's really cool, but I find that there's just so many awesome combos, and it's really hard with all these pies. I think I'm just going to keep maybe 2 pied females in my collection, and I just have too many pies. I kind of want to cut down my pies and kind of balance my collection with some other stuff, which is going to be pretty awesome. I also want to invest in some new genes this upcoming year too. So this guy, I'm not sure exactly how much he weighs. I'd say this is probably one of my biggest ball pythons. He's a really big boy, really awesome. If you take a look at his head, he has just color right on the head, pretty typical for a spider pie. This is pretty much what most spider pies, they just have color right on the head. Really awesome snake. So here is a really big spider female. This is actually spider, and it has the jungle woma gene. I actually bought it as a jungle woma. I bred this girl once, and let me tell you, I could not see the jungle woma in the offspring. It's a really slight morph that kind of reduces the pattern. But if you actually breed 2 jungle womas together, you get a super jungle woma, which is called a ridgeback. Really reduces the pattern. And it's kind of interesting on this girl. She's actually, I bred her the first year, and then she was really super picky. I actually bought this one as a mouser. She would only eat mice for the longest time. I finally got her to the point where she's been taking a few really small live rats in addition to mice. So she's been a pretty picky eater, has the year off. She's gotten some pretty good body conditions since she last laid eggs, but I decided to kind of get out of a lot of the spiders as well as the pies. That's another reason I'm just kind of downsizing a little bit. Really beautiful girl. She is really awesome. So I actually have a scaleless head male here. This is actually a male scaleless head, 50% het caramel albino. And as a matter of fact, I actually have 3 of these. I'm breeding 2 of them back to my, I actually have some females that are 100% het caramel albino. And it's kind of redundant actually having 3 of them. I probably won't do that pairing again. I was thinking if I don't hit it, I could pair this up again with one of those females. But I'll probably just shoot this 1 year because I want to get a whole bunch of eggs, and I'll pretty much hit it with 2 50%, I'm pretty sure. So this is just kind of a redundant snake in my collection. I actually have 3 of these, and I just decided this one's not breeding or anything. This is definitely big enough to breed if you're thinking about getting into the scaleless head project. This one actually has a really high expression scaleless head. You can see has quite a few scales missing from the top of the head. This guy's a little bit squirrely. If I can actually show you his head. He's a really awesome snake, and it's kind of interesting because actually my very first scaleless head, I paid like $1,200 for the first one, and the prices on these have really come down a lot, so you can actually pick up a scaleless head for a pretty reasonable price. If you actually breed 2 scaleless heads together with scales missing on top of the head, you actually get a completely scaleless ball python, which I haven't gotten yet. I'm still waiting on my females, but I thought I'd get rid of this guy because he's just one of my redundant males. So I have another big snake here. This is actually a female pastel. This one's actually from 2013, so it's got some age on it. And this one actually laid eggs last year, laid pretty late, so I gave it this year off. And I decided I think I'm gonna start getting rid of some of my pastels. And I'm actually looking at getting rid of some of my normal females probably once they lay eggs this year. But they're all breeding, and it looks like a lot of them are gravid, so I don't really want to get rid of them. So I kind of want to downsize, get rid of some of these normals and pastels. I'll probably keep, you know, some of my lemon blasts and replace them with a lot of the desert ghost and the clown stuff. And I actually have a bamboo lemon blast female that needs to move up in a tub like where this guy is. I just need to upgrade and slowly improve my collection. It's a really awesome snake. I've made some really awesome offspring, and you can tell on this version of pastel it keeps quite a bit of the color as it starts maturing, but a lot of pastels, they tend to brown out. If you mix the pastel with the right gene, sometimes you can really keep that really super bright yellow color. But I just thought I'd throw this one up for sale this year. Alright, so I actually have one more snake I want to sell. This is another scaleless head. There's no hets or anything in the mix. As a matter of fact, this is my very first scaleless head male. This is where all my scaleless heads came from. And it's a really high expression scaleless head. You can see there's quite a few scales missing from the top of the head on this one. This one is definitely ready to breed. It's produced some really awesome scaleless head stuff for me in the past. And believe it or not, I actually paid $1,200 for this male scaleless head back in the day. They're definitely not that expensive anymore. They've come down a lot in price. And now the completely scaleless ball pythons is what's really bringing the price into the market. These just the one copy of the scaleless head isn't really as expensive as they used to be. But you can definitely see on this one he has quite a high expression head, a lot of scales missing from the head. And actually when I got into the project, they were actually selling these high expression scaleless heads for quite a bit more than the ones that just had a couple scales missing from the top of the head. It's really awesome snake. And it's almost, it's funny if you actually feel the scales on the scaleless head, it almost feels like little bumps instead of scales. It almost has, the scales are completely different on these scaleless heads. It feels completely different than what you would normally expect to feel in a ball python. And a lot of times, even with the scaleless head, with one copy of the scaleless head, a lot of times on some of the morphs you'll see like a brighter color coming out. I don't know if you can see that. It's definitely a lot brighter than just a regular normal. And you start mixing it with other genes and it makes really impressive combos just with the scaleless head. So it does something to the scales with just one copy where it kind of thins them out and makes them feel a little bit different. It's kind of interesting. Alright, so it is time for the question of the day. And Joe Marcon asks, when you're growing out your small rats, do you separate the males and the females so they don't breed? And that is a very good question. As a matter of fact, if you're growing out young rats, there comes a point where you actually have to separate the males and the females. But the problem is if you do it a little bit too early, then you interrupt kind of the weaning process. You have to make sure they're fully weaned, but you don't want to wait too long to where they're actually breeding in the tubs. It's kind of one of my biggest fears, to actually have a whole tub full of females and accidentally put one male in with the females and get all those females pregnant. I think that would be kind of the worst case scenario, because then you'd have all this kind of an excess flow of pregnant females and you're not really expecting it in your whole operation. I'd say there's a lot of organization that comes with rats, and kind of the tricky thing is to hit that time when the rats are old enough to be weaned and to be separated into separate tubs, and trying to not separate them from the mothers too early. As a matter of fact, if you actually separate them too early, a lot of times what happens, especially with the mice, if you remove those babies from the mothers a little bit too early, you can definitely tell that they don't do very well. As a matter of fact, it's probably better to keep them with the female as much as you can and kind of get a really healthy weight on those babies before you actually separate them. But you definitely want to catch them before they're mature enough to where they can breed. I'd say you kind of have to eye it. You have to breed a few rats to actually really get the feeling for where the rats are weaned, but they're not too small to actually be separated into their own tubs. So that is pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.